Could you use a quick tip daily? How about a tip that can impact your day? My name is Raphael. Join me as I bring you tips by experts around the world. These experts have shared their knowledge and wisdom with me and will directly share them with you. Make sure to subscribe, like, follow, and comment, and I would love for you to become part of the New Tip Daily community. Allan, happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining me, my friend, on the New Tip Daily. I know you have some great tips for us. Love to hear them.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, man. I always like spending time with you.
I appreciate that. So I think when we hit a certain age, we have to think a little bit differently, right? One of the things I always say is the older I get, the less I know.
Well, I think the more you know, you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's called wisdom.
Yes. And I'm always seeking more, right? Go for it. Whenever you're ready to give us some tips, we're ready to listen.
You know, I think when people get older, sometimes they think they're past their due date. We've expired. We can't get this done. I was on a call with a woman, and she said to me these words, and I mean, the words stick in me. I didn't have to write them down. I didn't have to. It's like literally these were her words, and I still remember each and every one of them. The feelings she had when she was saying them was, I don't believe a woman in her 50s, a woman in menopause can lose weight. And I was like, that just took the air out of me to be having a conversation with someone who just didn't believe it was possible. And then later, just a few minutes later, almost like pretty quick, she said, I think I'm just going to be an old fat woman. Now, these are her words. I would never say the words old fat woman to someone, but that was her inner voice. That was the person inside of her that was saying, you can't do this. This is too hard. And so there's a piece of advice that goes out there that, you know, I'm going to say this and everybody's like, oh, he didn't say that out loud, but just get started is a common advice that people will give you when you say, I want to get fit, or I want to lose weight, or I want to do anything positive. Just get started. It's the worst advice you can give, particularly to someone over the age of 40. And the reason is this: our mindset is stronger than we are if we don't address it first. And so if you don't believe you can really lose weight, well, you're going to try something. You got started, but then you're going to stop when it gets hard. And so what you need to do first is not about the getting started. It's about getting right with yourself. So take some time to understand why you want to be who you want to be. And when you get a strong enough why, everything else will fall in place. So a perfect example for me is I live with my wife on an island. It's a third world country. We do not have an ambulance service. So if I was home with my wife and she was having a medical emergency and unable to stand up on her own, I would have to be able to lift that woman, carry her to the car, get her in the car, get her to the hospital if I wanted to help my wife. Okay, I'm 58 years old. This is a lifetime job. I married her. It's a lifetime job. I'll be doing that if I was 68, 78, 88, 98. Okay. I have to be able to do the things I need to do to be the man I'm supposed to be. And so the term just get started, that doesn't get me there. It doesn't get me there emotionally. If I take the time to think about what I have to be in 30, 40 years, now I have an emotional reason. I'm there for my wife. I want to take care of my wife. I don't want to be someone who's sitting on the floor in the kitchen where my wife just collapsed, unable to help her, unable to help myself. And so just get started is probably the worst advice that you can take. But if you've developed a good, solid why for the actions that you do need to take, and your why is bigger than the pain of staying where you are, you'll do the things that are necessary to get there. So start with your why, and you'll have the skills and the tools to be who you need to be.
I love it, but let's not forget, we got to turn the tables around. What if it's you on the floor?
Well, you're right. You're right. My wife could not do that right now, to be honest with you. She'd be calling people. She's got a lot of friends. So someone would be there soon, I'm sure. But that's the other side of it. Yeah, I know if I take care of myself, I'm not going to necessarily be in that situation. I can't say I won't be, because I can't tell the future. But I will tell this story. My grandfather loved golf. I mean, loved. He loved golf more than people. I think that's why he and my grandfather got divorced. Okay. But he played golf every day, like every day. He was a salesman. And back in the day, that's where they made their deals. They played golf with people. He played golf every single day. He lived on a golf course. And so that was his life. And I was visiting him. He was 80. And he didn't go out with everybody to play golf, because normally I'd have lunch with him and then they'd go, play. And he didn't. I was like, what's going on? He's like, I can't play anymore. I've lost my balance. I've lost my strength. I just can't hit the golf ball anymore. And, I asked him if he wanted to just go hit some balls. No, I can't. So he lost the thing he loved the most at 80 years old. And some people say, well, he's 80. He lived till he was 95. So that's an entire 15 years of his life that he didn't get to do the thing he loved the most. And so he lived in this, from 90 to 95, he lived in this apartment. It was a care apartment. So there were staff on duty. It was a one bedroom, single story place. So he didn't have any steps or anything. And he stayed in there. At age 90, he couldn't get from his couch to the bathroom. And he would have to call for help. And they'd have to come clean him up, because he couldn't even do that. So from age 90 to 95, he wanted no visitors. He let my uncle, his middle son, come, because they had a really special relationship, but no one else. So I didn't even get to see him. So I quip every once in a while. I say, I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105. I also want to be able to open my own pickle jar, because if you have pickles and you can't open a pickle jar, you ain't getting no pickles. Okay. So we start thinking about the life that you want to live, the things you love, the being independent, the being strong, the not being sick, and not spending the last 15 years of your life living a life you don't even really want. So yes, there is a backside of that. If you're taking care of yourself, you're going to have a longer, better life.
So I guess the key that you're talking about is we have to not quit, and it doesn't matter the age. And when that woman said to you, I'm going to be a fat old lady, in her mind, she already pictured it. And when we need to, I like talking about the theater of the mind.
Yeah.
Because we constantly are working on the thoughts that are up here. But if we're projecting, and that's why I call it the theater of the mind, because we're projecting what we see and what we become sometimes. And I think that what's in our mind will come out. So if we think we're old and we're fat, that's what's going to be. And so when you look at chips, when you look at greasy burgers and all these things, and you talk about a pickle jar, people can take something as good as a pickle and put it on a greasy burger, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm eating healthy, right?
It's vegetables. Ketchup is vegetable too, right? Pizza's a vegetable. I don't know.
So when we think of that theater of our mind, is where do we see ourselves? And it doesn't matter where you are now. You can change that trajectory. You can change. In the old days, when I used to work in a movie theater, and in order for a movie, sometimes they used to have 2 or 3 reels, depends on the length of the movie, and they used to have to put it on a projector, and then it would project through. But that's why they had a projectionist, and he would have to change that. Everything's now digital still, but in some theaters they still have that. And it's important. If you recall back in the day, you would see maybe the projectionist fell asleep.
Yeah.
See the reel at the end, like, and people start yelling, and
you got to yell up and wake the guy up. Yeah. I've been there.
And it was very funny because do we allow someone else to run the reel that we should be
So actually sometimes we probably should.
running?
I know my inner voice was not a good guy. Okay. He was not. And so the things he was telling me kept me down for a long, long time. And it wasn't until I turned around and said, no, this is unacceptable. I am not going to live this way, that I was able to change. Now, looking at the woman that I spoke of earlier, okay, like I said, we're on the phone, and I just told her, I said, look, let me prove you wrong. Just give me a shot to prove you wrong.
Nice.
And she did. And so she came on as a client, and we talked about what her goals were. She felt like she needed to lose 41 pounds. And so in basically 8 months, I helped her lose 41 pounds. Now, it helped that, once she started losing some weight, that we were going against an absolute. So it was like, I don't think a woman can ever lose weight. I mean, that was like, can ever. So helping her lose the first 5 pounds was beyond her scope of thought, of reason, of what the voice in her head was telling her. And then when she lost 10 pounds, it got easier. By the time she was had lost 25 pounds, she was like, I'm absolutely getting this done. And she was 100% bought in. So sometimes we might need someone in our life to encourage us, to push us, to get us where we need to be. But yes, we need to be working on ourselves. And when you do have the right frame of mind, and you've not necessarily beaten back that voice, because it's almost always there, but when you're powerful enough to be better than that voice, then you don't necessarily need to be listening to the naysayers and everybody else around you. You can do it yourself.
Yeah, I love it. But also when we think about you didn't do the work for her.
No, I couldn't. I couldn't walk around and knock food out of her hand or anything because I was online.
I'm gonna.
That's what the actors and actresses, when they get hired for a part and they've got to be a certain way, they will hire a chef and they will hire people to be around them to keep them doing the things that they're supposed to do. And yes, I can imagine there's been a situation where they hired someone and said, okay, I'm paying you, and I know I'm paying you, and I know I'm this guy. You knock food out of my hand if I'm not supposed to be eating it. I know that's happened. Okay. They need to be a certain weight. They need to look a certain way. They do the extreme thing. Most of us don't need to do the extreme thing. So no, we're not going to hire someone to cook for us and work us out. And then, yes, maybe even knock food out of our hands or lock us up so we can't go shop for ourselves. But I think the core of it is this: know what you need. I mean, if you need to change, then you've got to put those things in place. If you just let it go to chance and say, okay, I'm just going to do more, you'll do more for a while, but you'll be aimless. And when we're aimless, we don't feel like we're progressing. So she did have me as guidance and support and accountability. But yes, absolutely, she had to do the work or it never would have happened.
Yeah, can you imagine you're going to drink something and somebody comes and knocks it over and say, "Hey,
that might be a good job for me. I don't mind doing it."
You know what? Can I tell you that would be a very highly paid job? And
yeah. I'm sitting there. Some guy, he's going to be a superhero in a movie, and he says, "Dude, if I try to put some in my mouth that the chef didn't make, I want you to knock it out of my hands." I'm like, okay, I want you to say that on this recording because that's exactly what I'm going to do.
That would be an interesting job for somebody. Can you imagine somebody's like, "Oh, Pat,"
Yeah, sorry, you told me.
But here's the thing, right? And when we talk even about, let's say I'm about to eat a hamburger, or maybe it's a turkey burger, right, which is a little better, or maybe it's a veggie burger. And then all of a sudden, let's say it's a bad one, and somebody does smack it out of the way, you still have that craving for that. So then it needs to be replaced with something else. So maybe it's from a hamburger, a greasy hamburger, to a veggie burger. So you're still getting that. Oh, okay, I'm having a hamburger, right? So you're still having that. And I think what happens is, nobody's going to be knocking it out of the way.
Well, I think what you need, to replace it with is time. Okay. So a lot of people will eat dinner and they have a healthy dinner. And then an hour or two later, they find themselves in the kitchen digging through the cupboard for snacks. They're not hungry. They're just having a craving for a snack. It's a habit. They watch TV, they sit there and eat chocolate or they eat whatever. That's just what they do. Okay. It's a habit. So what I do with my clients sometimes, and I'll tell them, just take a picture of everything you're going to eat before you eat it. What this does is this puts a bit of time between the eating, the getting and the eating. And when they slow down, and I've had clients tell me this, it's just the act of taking the picture makes them for an instant think, do I really want to eat this? Now, there's also the accountability piece, like, crap, I'm going to have to text this to Allan, and then he's going to know that I had this. And there's and he won't even get mad. He'll just tell me, I know better. I'm a grown man and I know better, and I do know better. So they in their head, that time gave them time to process. Am I really hungry? Or is this something else? And that time away then allows them to say, okay, I'm going to have a glass of water, go back and start watching the movie. And then 10 minutes later, they don't want that thing. And they've interjected time. And from a habit and behavioral perspective, we call that breaking the chain. So they had the trigger, which was watching the movie, and then they're going to do the action, which is eating the snack. And the reward is the dopamine and everything else that goes along with that movie. So that's their habit train. By taking that little break, taking a picture, they now break that chain and give themselves to let that human part of their brain step in and make a decision for themselves. And I do tell them, it's like, you're a grown man. I put another word in there, but since we're broadcasting, I'm just going to say, you make your own decisions, but make sure this is a decision and not just a habit. So yes, you may need food, and you may sit there and say, okay, I've got choices on the menu and that looks great. And I want the fries and the Slurpee and the whole bit. But if you slow yourself down and put a bit of time in there, you sit there and say, no, that's not what's best for me. I should get the baked fish with a salad. And then you make that grown man decision.
That's it. It's very interesting. I want to share with you what I tell my clients when they go out to eat. But let's take a look at this first.
Welcome to Speaking Prowess, where we believe in the power of communication to transform lives. If you're ready to take your communication skills to the next level, we have a lineup of some of the most influential communication experts in the industry. These are the voices that will guide you on a journey to enhance your ability to connect, influence, and succeed. At Speaking Prowess, our mission is clear: to empower you through effective communication. We know that mastering the art of communication isn't just about what you say. It's about how you say it and the impact it has on every aspect of your life. So take action now and get ready to embark on a journey towards personal and professional growth.
So that's what's happening here in New York. We're actually having an event November 22nd through the 24th. And we're going to have more details coming. So anybody who's interested, DM me. It's going to be huge. But let me tell you what I tell some of my clients, and some of them have actually done it, and they find it so rewarding. So when they go out to dinner, what I tell them to do is, when their dinner comes out, to ask for a doggy bag right away.
Yeah.
And people say, hey, but take your food, cut it in half, and put it in that doggy bag.
Yep.
Why are you doing that? Well, because if it's not in front of me, I'm not going to eat it. I'll enjoy this, but guess what? Maybe 2 hours from now, I can finish that. And instead of having this crazy snack, I'll still have a great half of my other meal. I still ate my whole meal, but I separated by maybe 2 hours. And that has helped so many of the clients understand, like, wow, that little tip right there has made a huge difference in even the way they look at food, because now they're doing it at home. Instead of having a full sandwich, they'll have half, and maybe later on they'll have the rest of it. So it's kind of a cool trip.
It is. It is. And the reality is that restaurants to be competitive are giving you like 2 or 3 servings, maybe more, of whatever it is they're giving you. A piece of beef, a serving of beef is 4 ounces.
Mhm.
So if they're bringing you a 12-ounce steak, that's 3 servings of beef.
Mhm.
And when they bring you the sweet potato that's about the size of your head, that might be 4 servings of sweet potato.
Size of your head.
Okay. And so they bring you this big meal. It looks wonderful. You've been chowing down on rolls probably for a few minutes because they gave you 2 rolls each at least. And they'll ask you if you want more. So they're going to give you way more food than you need. So asking for that doggy bag and sitting there and saying, okay, based on how hungry I really feel now, how much of this steak do I need? And so I'll probably cut it in half and say, okay, I'm going to eat 6 ounces of this steak. That's a serving and a half. I'll put half the steak here. That'll probably be my lunch tomorrow. I'll take the sweet potato and I'll say, okay, I'm just going to cut a third of that off and eat that and put the rest in there. And I don't know, I may eat that for part of that for lunch tomorrow too, but it gets you right sized on your portions. Because you sit there and say, well, I go and I looked at the numbers and I had a portion of steak and a portion of potato. Not really. You had a lot more than that. And so you just realize restaurants are going to overserve you. And your little tip there is brilliant. It works. I used it myself. I use it myself.
Actually, it's very interesting. There's a particular restaurant that my fiance and I go to, and every time it's an abundance amount of food, but it's so delicious. And if we didn't do that, we would probably eat the whole thing. It's just so. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I always, and so we definitely take, and the next day we have it's a full meal again. It's like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and,
It's going to save you a lot of money too.
so I had a friend of mine a long time ago. The guy was on a budget. And it was the best thing for him because he moved into a new apartment. He was on his own. And he said, well, I really don't cook and I don't want to go out to eat dinner every day. But at lunch, I'm not making it, but I'm buying a sandwich. So what he started doing is he ate half the sandwich for lunch, the other half for dinner. And not only did he save tons of money, but he stayed healthy in that way. And then eventually he got tired of sandwiches and he started making his own lunch. But then once he made his lunch, he knew how much he was going to eat. And then he would have the rest of it for dinner. So it all goes into that mindset of what am I doing and how am I doing it? And what are the actions going to reflect later on?
Right. Because as I said earlier, if it's just get started, well, then he's just going to start eating salads for lunch and he's going to hate them. And then he's just going to skip out. He's going to be like, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And then he'll just buy a sandwich. He'll start eating a whole sandwich. And so it's really this, take that step back and have a big why. And then you're taking the actions that make sense. And you just build on those and build on those. And these strategies and tactics, like what we were talking about here, just become the building blocks for you, making it easier to comply with what you want and harder to do the things that you don't want to do.
And so we're talking about over 40. I mean, this advice goes for anyone. I mean,
yeah, it does. The problem I found is like someone who's in their 20s or 30s often can just walk in the gym and they start seeing success immediately. They're not hurting, the recovery's faster. And so they go out there and they've been eating a certain way. They just cut back on a few beers and they start losing weight. For people over 40, we don't have the same muscle mass. We don't have the same metabolism. We can't work as hard. And so for us, there is a little harder and a different way we have to go about it. It's still possible. So it's not impossible. It's possible, but you've got to be a little smarter. And if you have a very compelling why and you believe in yourself, good things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Great tips today, my friend. Thank you. So everybody who's at any age, listen to these tips, take them to heart, because guess what? The way you eat affects your heart too. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
I want to thank Nikki and I want to thank Mandy for joining us today and sharing, commenting, and that's a beautiful thing. So thank you both for being here with us. And anybody else who came on, if you watched the replay, please like this show, share with someone that you think would be incredible, who it would make a difference for them. The reason I do this show is to bring amazing people like Allan, who shares great tips, who can think about one tip that you gained something from your entire life. What is that one tip? And it's important that we share our tips with the world, so we don't keep those gifts, right? We got to share our gifts. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for being here again. Always appreciate you. All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Exceptional rest of your day. Take care.
Okay. Ciao.